This video is intended for general audiences who have no idea what Midjourney is.
Imagine a world where you could create anything, literally anything, by just speaking it into existence. The heavens and the earth, a 19th century alien invasion, a big apple floating above. The Big Apple, Kermit the Frog is a NASCAR driver who just won Daytona, or a local fisherman.
Out for a pleasure cruise at night through eel-infested waters.
Eco-friendly architecture, a badass monkey riding a motorcycle in post-apocalyptic America. If you can think of something, anything, however wacky, random, or seemingly impossible, or on the other hand, boringly pragmatic,
a sad bowl of oatmeal,
you can visualize it and do so beautifully with Midjourney.
Phenomenal cosmic power!
At your fingertips. So how exactly does this work, and how can you start using it right away? Well, let's get into it.
Hi everybody, welcome to this brand new YouTube channel all about creativity and productivity. Today we are kicking things off with a very basic video, but I'd like to think of it as the definitive video that will be out there on YouTube to introduce people to what Midjourney is. So clearly the title of this video, what is Midjourney? If you already know what it is, you probably didn't even click through to come this far.
Why would you do that?
And if you're one of those people, really quickly, click subscribe anyways, because this is just the starter video. I'm going to be doing all kinds of in-depth tutorials and tips and tricks, everything I've learned this year about all the amazing art and techniques and things you can do with AI art and Midjourney specifically, but also how you can integrate with Photoshop and Illustrator and do all these other cool things. So click subscribe, stick around, because there's going to be so much more content coming that's more advanced. And the reason why I'm kicking things off with this video specifically, so last week I was texting with a friend of mine, and she's generally a creative person. I mean, not maybe the most techie person. And I was telling her something cool that I made in Midjourney, and she literally replied, "What is Midjourney?" And I was shocked. I was appalled. I was, really? At this point, you don't know what Midjourney is? And then it occurred to me, not only her, but I do know some other friends who don't even know what it is or how it works. And rather than me explaining to them individually, it's like, why don't I sit down and make a proper video of sort of how to get started with it, how it works, just very practically. Like, people don't need to understand the background science of it too much. Like, I like to think of it as just magic, right?
Ho, 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 it's magic!
Because it kind of is magic. It's mind-blowing. It's amazing what this thing can do. A lot of people are paranoid. A lot of people are afraid of it. A lot of people are intimidated. And I'm here to tell you, if you haven't heard this already, like, it's not going anywhere. It's not going away. It's here to stay, and it's only going to evolve and get more powerful. And
you can either profit by this or be destroyed.
So you can't just sit back and pretend like it doesn't exist. Like, it's here. So you may as well learn at least a little bit about it and realize that it can actually be fun and cool and really enhance your creativity. And even if you're not a content creator or designer, animator, filmmaker, or whatever, like, there's just still different ways you can just have fun with it, and it can just enhance your overall life. So all of that being said, Midjourney is essentially an AI art generation platform, I guess you can call it. I think part of the thing that's confusing to people about it is it's hard to label it with what we already know. Like, you can think of social media platforms like a Facebook or a Twitter. Like, it's not that. It's also not an app. Midjourney doesn't even have an app. You actually have to use a different app to use Midjourney. And this is where things are really confusing for a beginner. And I'm going to try to clarify and make it all very clear for you. Like I said, Midjourney currently, they don't actually have an app that you can install on your phone or whatever, and there's no sort of Mac app or PC app right now. They are working on their new website, and it did say coming soon at the top, an Imagine field. So basically, and again, I'm going to explain all this in a second. In the near future, you probably won't need to use Discord, and I'm about to walk you through the process of what Discord is and how to get started with it. It's all evolving quite rapidly. This is where we're at right now. This is where we're at with Midjourney, the website, with how things work with Discord, how you get started. So all that being said, let's get started. Let's dive in.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what Midjourney is. You have to see it for yourself.
Okay, first things first, open up your favorite web browser. For me, that's Brave. We're just going to go straight to midjourney.com. And so our Midjourney journey begins. So first things first, if you look down on the bottom right, there are a few buttons there. Since we're starting from scratch here, you're not going to click sign in, of course. You're going to click join the beta. Click that. And what it's going to do here is bounce you over to Discord. And like I mentioned, Midjourney doesn't have its own app. It uses a different app, platform, service, whatever you want to call it, called Discord. So as for what Discord is,
Discord is a group chatting platform originally built for gamers that has since become a general use platform for many kinds of communities. In the last couple years, it has become a primary means by which users can interface with AI technologies to create imagery, video, and other forms of content.
you just enter in your info, create an account with Discord, just like you would on any other site. You enter in your email, a password to get started. For the time being now, I'm going to just click already have an account. And by the way, if you already have a Discord account, but you're new to Midjourney, go ahead and click this, already have an account. And you basically just enter in your login info. Okay, so the Midjourney site has bounced us over to Discord. And specifically within Discord, we are in the Midjourney server. And if you're brand new to Discord, let me just give you a quick crash course here. There's some basics that you're going to need to know just to be able to navigate around and have a general understanding of what's going on here. So don't be overwhelmed. And by the way, it might look slightly different on your screen. You might be looking at this on mobile. So if you do have any questions, just let me know in the comments and hopefully I can clarify. Okay, here's the basic structure of Discord. Basically, you can create your own server or you can join other people's servers. And what you see over here on the left side, all along this edge, are different servers. Well, basically from here all the way up to here. These are servers that I've either joined or I've created already. So if you're creating a brand new Discord account, this is probably all blank. Potentially the only one you have here is the Midjourney server that you just joined. If for some reason you have a different server selected, all you have to do is go here in Midjourney, click that. So you might be in announcements, you might be in status, you might be in one of these other groups. It doesn't really matter for the time being because I'm going to guide you through exactly what you need to do. So what we're going to want to do is, yes, they have these newbies rooms here. And if you click here, these are people with presumably new accounts and they're just getting their feet wet and experimenting and trying things out. If you want, you can come back here later and kind of see what other people are doing just to get some ideas. But if you just sit tight and watch this video, I'm actually going to walk you through sort of how to begin and how to play around with some prompts. So you don't really need to come back here to any of these newbie rooms. Although feel free if you just want to come back and see. And feel free to explore all these other rooms too. They have sort of featured showcases, right? So like these are different techniques and things you can do with Midjourney. There's different rooms. So you can always come back here for ideas and inspiration. So just letting you know that all that is here if you want to access it later. But what you're going to want to do is click this green plus button here. And that is the button to add a server. And what we're going to do is you're going to create your own server. So obviously here you click create my own and just click for me and my friends, because this is basically just for you to create your AI art with Midjourney. You can feel free to upload your avatar, your icon for your server. I usually don't even bother with it because you're not really showing off this server. You're not really inviting other people to it, although you could. But really this is just for you to privately create AI imagery using Midjourney. Let's go ahead and name our server. Let's call it Start Me Up. So anyway, we've named our server. We're going to click create. And just like that, we have a server. So notice how clean this is compared to the Midjourney server that had just so much going on. And the reason why is you're the only one in your own server here, so you don't have a ton of other people. And there aren't all these channels because we haven't created any. The default channel is named General and is created by default, of course. That's pretty much it. So over here in the list, notice this is highlighted here, this SMU, which stands for Start Me Up. That's the first major step. That wasn't hard, right? Pretty easy.
So easy.
So you've created your own private server. Now what we're going to do is going to go back to the Midjourney server. And let's say we're in this newbies room or this newbies room or announcements. It really doesn't matter, but let's just stay in the newbies room here. And what you're going to do is move the cursor up here, go up here to show member list. And these are all the admins and other people who are members of this server and whatnot. So again, don't get confused. There's a lot of stuff here. But what you're going to see here is the Midjourney bot. And this is the key thing here. So what you're going to want to do is just click it once, just a regular click. You don't even have to right click. And you can click this button here, add app. And what it's going to do is bring up this little prompt. And it's basically, this is how you add the Midjourney bot to a server, or in our case, you're about to add it to your server that we just created. So add a server here, select a server. Now these are all the servers I've already created before. Obviously we just created this one called Start Me Up. So that's the one we're gonna go with. Select that server, click continue, leave all of these things checked, and then just click authorize and prove you're a human. All right, success. The Midjourney bot has been authorized and added to Start Me Up, our server. So just click go to Start Me Up. So now we're back in our Start Me Up server. And what you might not have noticed before, I don't know whether this thing was displayed on your screen or not, but this button here for show member list, if you click it, it'll show, or it might already be showing, you would click it to hide it. But basically this is you in your own server, but now we have the lovely Midjourney bot sitting here in our server. So just within our general channel here, I'm not even gonna create any individual channels yet. I'll get to that later. Let's go ahead and type what you would always type for all of the imagery you're gonna create with Midjourney. And it always starts with /imagine. And then you hit space, and then it's gonna bring up this block to enter in your prompt. And just to show you why this is not going to work right now, I'll just type in something simple, like let's imagine a plate of fruit, period, right? You're going to send that away and you're going to get a message. Yours will be different than mine because this is my old account and it's going to say I've used up all the free credits. You're probably going to receive a different message that says we don't do free trials anymore. So you need to sign up for a subscription. So in order to generate images, you're going to need to subscribe. So you can either click here on account or just go / instead of imagine, do /subscribe and then hit enter. And it's going to bring up this little bit of text here. And it says, this is your personal link. Don't share it with anyone. And you click this button. And it's going to give you this warning. You're leaving Discord. Yeah, in general, I trust the Midjourney links from here to go somewhere else. So then you click visit site. Okay, so to get started with actually creating images, you'll need to have a paid subscription. When I first started almost a year ago, they used to offer a free trial, but there are currently over 16 million Midjourney users, and it requires a lot of expensive computing resources in order to generate all these images for everyone. So it's not super surprising that they eventually transitioned to paid subscriptions only. All that being said, I'm going to quickly walk you through your options here. First off, let's just ignore their mega plan, because if you're watching this video, it probably means you're just starting out with Midjourney and their high-end plan is total overkill, even for me. I've currently got a yearly subscription with the Pro plan, but before I mention about the key benefit of the Pro plan, let's compare the basic and standard plan. Me personally, I started out with the standard plan and I paid month to month. And this is what I would recommend for you as well. You might be looking at that basic plan like, hey, I'm totally new here, so why don't I just go for the lowest tier? But the reason why I'd advise you against that is if you really want to give Midjourney a proper go to see how you like it and decide whether you'd like to keep using it, the basic plan only gives you 200 generations per month. And what you'll see is as you get started, those 200 generations are going to fly by. In fact, you might use up all 200 within one day. So, like I said, I recommend the standard plan. The beauty of the standard plan is they give you 15 fast hours a month, which is actually plenty of time to experiment and create some really amazing images. But in addition to that, even if you use up all 15 of those fast hours, you can still create even more images while on relaxed mode. That's what this unlimited relaxed generation term here means. And you might be wondering, well, is the relaxed mode super slow and unusable? And I'm glad to inform you that it's actually not that slow at all. Not quite as fast as fast mode, obviously, but it's plenty good to create hundreds and even thousands of images every month.
She's fast enough for you, old man.
Oh, and one thing I should mention here before we move on. Midjourney defaults this page to annual billing. But since you're brand new to Midjourney and probably just want to get a feel for this whole thing, I recommend just trying it out for 1 month before committing to an annual subscription. So when you click here to toggle on monthly billing, you'll see it's actually $30 for 1 month of the standard plan. Yeah, it might seem like a lot to pay for a month, but like I've touted this whole video, you're gaining access to literally magic, where you can create amazing imagery in an infinite range of styles about any subject matter you're interested in. It really is a gateway to infinite creativity. But enough about me talking about all that you can do with it. It's about time I start walking you through the Midjourney experience, showing you all that you can do with this magic AI technology. So pick a subscription. A month of standard is what I recommend. And let's pop back over to the Discord server we created in order to begin our Midjourney experience. All right, here we go. So let's start out with something rather abstract, just to see how Midjourney would interpret what you're going to tell it to do, right? So you'll always start out with this command when you're creating new imagery. You're always going to type / and then imagine, IMAGINE. And then you're going to hit spacebar. And it creates this little box that's called a prompt. What we're going to type in now is considered the prompt. So let's keep it up in the air, wide open, just to see what Midjourney does with it. And this is the cool, fun thing about Midjourney. You can literally throw anything at it, and it's going to do its thing and churn and give you back something within the realm of what you imagined or what you described, right? It'll take it and run with it. So why don't we start out with a thing of beauty.
A thing of beauty is a joy forever. My man John Keith said that. John Keith, that's my man.
So you type that in, you press enter, and you give it a few seconds, and it gets started. And what it does for you is it creates a grid of 4 images. So basically you told it a thing of beauty. Midjourney heard that and said, okay, we didn't give it any other parameters. It's just going to go nuts and say, hey, this is the AI interpretation of a thing of beauty. And this is what we got. Not bad. So you'll always get this grid of 4 images, and it's kind of small now, but if you click on it, it'll bring it up a little bit larger so you can get a closer view. And, we've got 4 lovely ladies here with very floral hair and arrangements. I see some butterflies in there. So these are concepts and words and objects and things that are associated with beautiful things, according to Midjourney, and how it's been trained by millions of users and just over the last couple of years, like just all of this data that it has. You give it a little nugget of information, a text line that just says a thing of beauty, and this is how it interprets it based on its whole pool of data that it's pulling from, right? This image up here, top right, is nice. So what you want to do, let's just say we like the top right the best. So what you'll do when you're here is you can either tap anywhere over here or just tap escape to get out of this and go back to the regular level. And the way Midjourney numbers things, this first slot is 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. And you'll notice down below, there's a U1 through 4 and a V1 through V4. And what this means is, if you click the U1 button, it's going to upscale this one image only. Same thing for U2, U3, U4. So I just said I liked this U2 image the best, this number 2 here. So if you click U2, it's going to take a second, and it's going to upscale that one particular image. So now we don't have a grid, we have that one image that we chose that we like the best, or that I like the best. So now if you click it here, there you go. So now it's a higher res version image of just the one that we wanted here. Again, if you click escape, or if you click anywhere over here to go back, there's a few things here that you can do. So you can go back up here and you could upscale all the other variations if you want. Unfortunately, there's no button to just upscale all of them at the same time. You actually have to manually click U1 and then U3, U4. So let's go just to close out these options here, the default options when you get a grid. We already now have an understanding of what U1 through U4 is to upscale the images you want. Now let's take a look at V1 through V4. So what V1 through V4 will do, if you click on one of these, is it will give you, let's say I clicked V4. Actually, since I liked image 2, let's stick with image 2. So we already upscaled image 2, which is right here. But let's say we want to get more variations of this one. So the quickest way to do that is to just click here on V2. So what it's going to do is, it knows you liked the second image. It's going to create a new grid for you of 4 new images that are all similar to this one that we chose, not these other 3. So let's give it a second and let's take a look. Okay, so we have our variations of image 2. Let's click that, enlarge it. So there you go. Pretty much what you would expect, right? They're all similar to that one that we liked. They're looking at different angles. This girl's looking left. That's how you create variations. And notice it says here, variations strong. Cool thing about Midjourney is they allow you to distinguish between how much in general that you want to vary an image. So when you click a V1 through V4 button here, it's going to give you a strong variation, meaning it's going to change it more than subtly. It's going to change it significantly enough where it's really its own unique image. But let's say you really liked this image and you just subtly want to tweak it, you know, just to see slightly some different variations on it. So now that we've covered the basic grid, what U1 through U4 does, V1 through V4. Oh, and by the way, this is just the reload button. So basically, if you click that, it's going to give you a whole new set of 4 images for a thing of beauty, right? So that is the basic fundamental building blocks of the Midjourney experience in a nutshell. You type in a prompt, it gives you a grid, you choose which ones you want to upscale, and if you want to do variations of one or all of them, you just individually click these V buttons, and if you're ready for a new set of 4 images, you just click this refresh button. That's it. So that's the basics. So remember, I said this V2 creates a sort of strong variation of that one, but let's say we wanted something subtle. So after you upscale this image like we did earlier, and we got this, notice there are a lot more options here. So once you have an individual image that you've picked out of the grid, this very strong button is essentially the same as clicking the V2, right, for her. So let's see what happens when we click very subtle. So we scroll down here and we see it doing its thing. And there we go. So notice, these are the strong variations, these are the subtle variations. And already you can kind of tell there's way more variation in this from our original image than there is for this. You click here, it feels like the same image. There's just things that if you look closely are slightly different, just different floral arrangements, different, you know, and slightly different looks of the face, like, you know, probably slightly different hairstyles. So just so you have an idea of this is what very subtle does versus what very strong does. And this is a relatively new feature here, very region. Let's say I liked everything about, so first we're going to click this. So let's click very region, right? It brings up this overlay, this editor. Let's just say we don't like her face, because really that's the only individual thing to kind of pick out. So let's just say we love all this floral arrangement, we love everything else, but let's just say we want to have her face look different. You basically, by default, you have these 2 selection tools down here. And you have the square, which if you click and drag, it'll create a rectangle. But for the sake of this, let's take this lasso tool, click that, and let's just drag it around the general area of the face. Okay, so we selected the face. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll see how this works. So we selected our region, and then we're going to click submit. And just like we have the options of very strong, very subtle, now we're just trying out very region. So we scroll down and it's working on it. Okay, our region variations are done. Let's click this new grid to bring it up. Pretty cool. You know, like if you notice, everything in the image is exactly the same outside of the region that we selected. But if you look just around the face, you'll notice we've got 4 completely different variations. This one, she's kind of looking down, asleep a little bit. This one down to the left. You know, this one looking straight at the camera, this one looking off to the side. Plus the facial structure is a little bit different too. So it's like a different person, but everything else is the same. So, you know, I think this one probably turned out the best in my opinion. I think this top right one. So let's click, just like we do any grid before, right? So the second one is what we want. So we click U2 and upscale that one. And there we go. So we have our original and we have this same image except with a different face because this is the region that we selected to change it up. And we could literally do this infinity, like as much as we want, as many times as we want. We could, even with this new image, I could select another region and vary that, you know? But since I like all this, let's just say I didn't like any of these faces, I could just click this reload button and guess what? It's gonna give me 4 new images with 4 new faces just like that. And I could do this all day and create as many variations as you want. It's amazing, right? So, I mean, you can quickly see why I didn't recommend the basic plan because you could use up all of your 200 credits literally within an hour or two just from doing variations and trying different things out. So that's why I was saying, if you really want to give Midjourney a proper test, go with the standard plan, try it for a month, and you might very well be blown away by all that you can do. And, you know, maybe you don't want to pay for the whole year, but maybe you just want to be like, you know what, for 1 month, I want to go crazy and create tens of thousands of images, just everything I ever wanted to create, and do it for 1 month, cancel your subscription, and then move on with your life. And you have this huge library of images that you love. There you go. Anyway, we've gone through basic upscaling, basic variations, how to reload to get more images, very strong, very subtle, very region. So this upscale 2x and 4x is something they only recently added. And honestly, I haven't really used it much because I actually have a separate app that I use that is a paid app, but it's a one-time payment. It's called Topaz AI. It's a great upscaler. And it also gives you very specific controls and you can kind of adjust the image as you upscale it and you can get super high resolution with these images. So because I have that service already, I haven't really felt a need to use Midjourney's new upscaler. But if you don't have a third-party solution for upscaling your images, you can, I mean, this might be good enough, but if you wanted to make a high resolution print of this, you know, or just do something really large, or if you want to sell these as like stock images or whatever you want to do, if you want to go really upscale, you can actually do it within Midjourney now. This is just a new thing within the last month or two. Obviously, if you click upscale 2x, it's going to upscale it twice as big, upscale 4x, even larger. So that's that whole top row of tools. So another new feature that was added just a few months ago, I think it was this summer, and this was a huge deal, just this alone, is this zoom option here. When they first released this feature, everybody was going crazy with it because it was just like, wow, this is just like a whole, just mind-blowing, a whole nother world. And it does what it would expect it to do. So let's say you want to zoom out. You literally want to sort of move your camera back and see more of what's surrounding this image, right? So if you zoom out 2x, that's going to zoom you out really far. 1.5x, obviously less far. But you can also do a custom zoom. So you can zoom out, you can type in whatever number value you want. A lot of times when I'm working with images, I feel like 2x is too much. Like it just pulls way out and it adds all this other stuff into the image that it's really not what I want. But it's okay, because then you can keep generating multiple versions over and over again. 1.5x is usually pretty safe. It's going to keep generally the same elements of what you already have. It's just going to basically extend the borders a little bit. So why don't we start with that? I'm going to click zoom out 1.5x, and it's literally just going to, you'll see, it's going to zoom out just enough so you can see a little bit more beyond this original frame. All right, so while we're at it, I'm also going to introduce you to this last set of tools below the zoom, which honestly, I don't use as much, but there's definitely certain scenarios where it'll come in handy for you, very much so. So think about it if you're doing some kind of landscape, you know, like a cityscape or something, and you have a view of it here, but you're kind of wondering like, oh, what's happening more off to the right side or up or down, right? Just to show you how it works, like let's say we want to pan down. So first I'm going to show you the results of the 1.5x zoom, and then I'm going to show you the results of the pan down. All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. So this is our initial zoom out at 1.5x. Okay. So again, certain other images, it might make a lot more sense. This one, not as much. I didn't really expect much from anything happening out here, but let's say it was a person in a city, you know, on a street and on a sidewalk, you can zoom out and this whole story can unfold, right? Of other people on the sidewalk, other shops, stores, other things happening. So it's like, wow. And you can keep zooming out and zooming out. But yeah, that's 1.5x. So let's take a look at the 2x. Obviously we pulled out even further, and I actually like this 2x better than the 1.5x. Even though we pulled out further, like I said, the downside is it's usually kind of unpredictable. You might get a lot of results that you just don't really like at all, but sometimes you get lucky. I like this. So just for posterity's sake, let's pick this image number 3 for the 1.5x zoom out. And let's pick also this image number 3 for the 2x zoom out. And now we've got those two images. And right now, these images are being stored to your account. Notice that I'm not downloading any of these images yet, because what you could do is you could click here and then click open in browser. It'll open up in a web browser, and then you can right click and save the image that way. But I would not recommend doing that, as it can become very tedious, especially if you're going to be doing hundreds of images and thousands of images at a time. So I'll walk you through the process of what it's like to download and organize all your images. I tend to do this at the end of the day and just collect all of my images all together. I'll probably do a more separate detailed tutorial about how I organize all my images, but since this is just a basic intro video, just bear that in mind, because some of you might be wondering like, okay, I have these images, but what do I do with them now? How do I save them? So yeah, that's why if you just want to download a one-off, you can click here, open it in a browser and download it. Otherwise, hang on, I'm going to walk you through how to download your images. All right, so just taking a look at this last image we created, now you have an understanding of what this button does, what all of these buttons do, the zoom outs, the varies, the upscales, the panning, and actually I don't even think I showed off the panning. So let's go over here to the pan down that we did, right? And that's pretty cool, actually. Let's go with this fourth one. And there's a couple cool things here worth mentioning, is when you do the pan down, you notice we went from a square image to a vertical image now, just like that. So the pan is not necessarily sort of keeping the same square frame and moving it down so that the top, because you might have thought that the top would have gotten cut off because we panned the camera down to show more of what was lower. But actually it saves the top and it adds in more below if you pan down. So that's actually pretty cool. It's not just a camera pan, it's also expanding your overall field of view with your image. I like that, that's pretty cool. So now you have an understanding of the zooming, the panning, the upscaling, the varying, which are really, these are just the basic fundamental building blocks of using Midjourney. One last note about this, again, you can click zoom out, it'll keep this same ratio now that we have this vertical, it'll zoom out twice as much, or 1.5x. You can create a custom zoom. I'll just bring it up here real quick. So it brings up our original prompt. This was technically the original ratio was 1:1. So you can either delete it and stick with the same aspect ratio we have now, which is vertical, but all you have to do, since this is a custom zoom, and I haven't really tried what happens if you type 5, it might break it or it turn out, I don't know. I don't even want to know. I might do a bonus clip of that later or something. I'm guessing there's probably a limitation, like maybe it only goes up to 2x at once. So, but a lot of times, like I said, I'll do something in between 1.5x and 2. So I might do like a 1.7, and that's all that you would do. And then you click submit, and that would give you your custom zoom. So I might hit cancel. Oh, and the other cool thing is, in addition to the zoom outs, you can also click this button. It says make square. So if you have a vertical image, you click make square, it does what you might think it would do. It expands on the right and left sides to create a square image of this. And again, it'll give you a grid of another 4. You know, you pick which one you like, upscale, rinse and repeat. Like this is the process, just over and over again. So that's it for the main tools. Like this is how you use Midjourney. So I'm going to start getting into parameters of how you can really customize images. But let's switch to a different example. Let's get a little bit more specific than this very vague, a thing of beauty, right? So one of the things, like I might have mentioned earlier in this video, is that Midjourney is pulling from this vast amount of information, you know, that it's been trained on. And depending on how many times people have searched for things and how good of an understanding it has of certain concepts and people and objects, places, things, if it's something that's commonly searched and commonly known, chances are Midjourney will do a pretty good job handling it. Like it's going to know who that person is, what they look like, and all of that. Whereas if you pick a very obscure C-list celebrity, you know, the results might not look like that person, right? So just to give you an idea though of how powerful this is and how quickly and easily you can create images that are just like, wow. So let's do imagine. And for our prompt, we're just going to type good old Bill Murray.
I'm a god.
You're God.
Right. And while that's cooking, let's do a few others. So let's do imagine Taylor Swift. And let's do Tom Cruise. My experience in the past is that it does really well with Tom Cruise, and with Taylor Swift, it just kind of gives the general idea of her, but it doesn't look 100% photo accurate to her. Let's do one more. Let's do imagine Jennifer Lawrence, since there's a new Hunger Games movie coming out, right? Well, like I said, these are so good. Look at this. This is Tom Cruise. Like, that's just Tom Cruise, period. Just like that. You got a spitting image of Tom Cruise. Amazing. Like, this is Midjourney, the power. So Taylor Swift, like I said, you kind of get the sense of it's her, but this could kind of be any blonde. So for whatever reason, like, and the more you play, the more you experiment, whether it's with celebrities, whether it's with, maybe you're a botanist and you're interested in flowers, or you're a horticulturalist. You might notice that Midjourney does particularly well with certain types of flowers, but not others, you know, like maybe the ones that are the most popular, it does really well with, and other ones not so much. But for whatever reason, I don't feel like it does the most amazing job with Taylor Swift, but whatever. There's actually ways and little other third-party tricks and things you can do to really make a person look photorealistic. Like, I could make any of these look exactly like Taylor Swift if I wanted to, but that is a far more advanced tutorial for another day. But just so you know, the things that are on the horizon if you decide to stick with Midjourney. Like I said, there's no limits. Like, the sky's the limits, and the technology, everything is advancing so fast, so rapidly, so amazingly. So anyway, let's go back to Bill Murray here real quick. So this is what happens, like literally, it doesn't take any skill with writing a prompt or anything. This is literally just, you just type in Bill Murray, that's it, and this is what you get. Not bad. We're gonna come back to Bill in a second. So I showed you Tom Cruise. So this is Jennifer Lawrence, which again, kind of like Taylor Swift, it doesn't 100% look like Jennifer Lawrence. It just feels a little bit generic. Also, the fact that it's very painterly. All of these are kind of painterly, which kind of shows you that Midjourney tends to give something its own style if you don't specify parameters or specific direction for it. So it'll do its best to come up with a beautiful image of anybody and anything. But we literally gave it zero guidance. We were just like, this person, Tom Cruise, Jennifer Lawrence, and that's what it came up with. Now let's start to get into parameters. And the first parameter, it's the perfect moment for it now, because let's just see what happens when we type in imagine Jennifer Lawrence, except this time we're going to add in our first parameter, and we're going to say, and by the way, all these parameters, you always start with dash dash, right? So our first parameter, we're going to do dash dash style, and then you're going to do a space, and then you're going to type raw. And that's it. That's the only thing I've added and changed. All right, so immediately you can notice just a staggering difference between just by adding in that style raw. It's like, oh wow, wait, this actually starts to look like Jennifer Lawrence if you compare it with just writing in her name, right? It's like the difference is staggering. And you could do the same thing with Bill Murray, with Tom Cruise, with whatever, so even going back to our first prompt of a thing of beauty, which is pretty vague, if you type in style raw, it's going to give you something that's probably a little more photographic. So again, you can leave things up in the air and truly treat it like just a slot machine, and the mystery can be part of the fun, just to see what Midjourney gives you. Or you can start to get more granular and really fine tune and control and tell Midjourney more of what exactly you want to see. Maybe you don't want a photographic look. Maybe you enjoy the painterly look, right? So it's really just all about what you want to do, and Midjourney is just that tool to give you whatever you want, but also give you other stuff that you didn't even know that you wanted, right? So let's go back to Bill Murray real quick. We already did just a plain Bill Murray, and it was kind of painterly, right? By default. So this time, let's do a realistic photo portrait of Bill Murray. Okay, so compared with what we had before, it definitely feels more photographic, right? And less painterly. Still a little bit sort of artistic, but definitely more like a photo. So these are pretty cool, right? What you're going to realize though is you saw how just by adding in one slight parameter of style raw, how much it changed the image of Jennifer Lawrence. And what you're going to see is certain individual words in your prompts can be really powerful and significantly sway how your images look. So the word portrait, when you throw it in there, it automatically tends to convey to Midjourney to kind of take it in a more painterly artistic angle as opposed to some sort of raw photo out there like a normal photo taken. So let's just see a slight tweak on that where it's like a realistic photo of Bill Murray. But we're going to add in style raw. And I'm going to introduce you to a new parameter here, which is, you notice how every image other than that one where we did the pan and it became a vertical image, they've all been square images, right? So by default, Midjourney will always give you square images. So now, in order to change the aspect ratio, because I'm thinking, okay, let's have it be a vertical photo, right? So in order to do that, you do, again, remember all the parameters are going to be dash dash. So dash dash, and then you do AR. And let's make it 3, which is the width. You do colon, and then 5, which is the height. So 3 by 5. And let's see what we get. Okay. So clearly you notice the first thing that you notice is now the aspect ratio, or they're all vertical now. So instead of the square grid, we have this vertical grid here. Okay. This is the thing about Midjourney. You never know exactly quite what you're going to get. So I could literally run this like 3 more times and I might get an ultra photorealistic photo that would be better to show you. And just for sake of argument, I'm going to hit reload on that to get a new set of 4. But while this one's loading, what I want to show you next is, like I said, Midjourney understands so much about who people are, different styles. It understands what colors are, like all of these things. So obviously it knows photographers out there. It knows artists out there. It knows like who Picasso is. Actually, before I type the next prompt in, let's take a quick look. So yeah, so this one up here left feels a little more photographic. Again, this one still feels painterly. Bottom right, kind of halfway between painterly and photo. But the point is, you can play around with it more. Your word choice does matter. Again, there's always going to be a little bit of a guessing game with every image generation, but in general, if you go with style raw, it's going to end up feeling a little more photorealistic. And you also just learned aspect ratio. So you can literally make this something else really wide. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But before I get to playing around with aspect ratios a little more, different artists and photographers. So you can stylize an image just by specifying who's an artist or photographer out there that you like, and it'll kind of mimic the style. So let's type realistic photo of Bill Murray. Let's keep style raw. Let's keep the aspect ratio 3:5. But we're going to come back here before these. I usually stick these parameters all at the end, and you should too. But for the first part of the prompt, instead of ending it with realistic photo of Bill Murray, let's say by. So Richard Avedon was a famous photographer, did a lot of black and white fashion photography a long time ago. So I love a lot of his work, but let's just see what it happens when we say, this is a photo of Bill Murray taken by Richard Avedon. So it's going to give us a vertically oriented photo that, because we said a realistic photo, but we also specified an actual photographer, it should give us something way more photorealistic than just saying a photo of a person alone. Okay, cool. So now we're kind of talking. So this definitely feels more like a proper photo in a photo studio, a high-end portrait photograph by, let's say, Richard Avedon, right? So when I think of Richard Avedon, though, I think of, like I said, 1960s, 70s, like black and white fashion photography, whatnot. So let's say we want to make this photo black and white, because that's what I would think of when I would think of Richard Avedon. So let's select this text here, this whole prompt, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to type imagine, like we always do. Hit space for the prompt. Hit Command V to paste in our prompt. Now, before photo here, I'm going to type in black and white photo, and then just hit return. Let's see what happens. Now remember, a lot of times when you specify something with Midjourney, it's not going to give you exactly what you want. It's just the way it is, like I said, and I'll continue to reiterate. Don't get frustrated with Midjourney. Just think of it as a random wildcard slot machine, because that's how I think about it. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, but to me, the exhilaration of getting lucky or just discovering some kind of image that's like, wow, I wouldn't even have thought of this image, and right now we're just doing realistic sort of portrait photography of celebrities, but this is just scratches the surface and getting started. There's just so much infinitely more you can do artistically than this. But anyway, so coming back to what we did here. So black and white photo. So we got one black and white photo, right? And it looks like he's in the snow or something. So again, Midjourney will always fill in the blanks. You didn't tell it snow, you didn't tell it, but somehow because of the white that we wrote, it interpreted as like maybe white from snow, and it made that connection. It, dressed him up for winter. But here's the thing, like, even though these aren't black and white, like I love him in this sort of St. Patrick's Day outfit. And I love him with these sort of goggles, like he's going spelunking or underwater diving or something. So I love all these images, but I want to address this whole black and white thing and the control of it, right? So the next parameter that can be important, but honestly, it often leaves me feeling a little disappointed because it ends up skewing the image in other ways, even though you specify the image to not be something. And what I mean by that is, let's select the whole thing just like we did, hit copy, and paste it in. Now at the end, very end of our line, this is often the thing that goes at the very, very, very end, even after you added many parameters. You do dash dash, and you do no, and then you do space. And then anything you type in here is essentially a negative prompt. So it basically is like, don't put this in the image, right? Now this is in theory, it should work this way, and sometimes it kind of does. But even when it works at solving the problem of not adding the thing in that you told it not to, unfortunately, I found it tends to mess with the image and it changes other things, and I often end up not liking the result. So just to show you what I'm talking about. So let's say no color, right? We already specified a black and white photo, but let's also add this negative prompt at the end of no color. And we plug it in, and let's see what happens. I can already see where this is going. Perfect. It's confirming exactly what I was warning you about. Okay, so realistic black and white photo of Bill Murray by Richard Avedon. We've added in this no color prompt, right? So it succeeded at taking out the color from the photo, so we truly have a black and white photo. But obviously, if you have two eyeballs, you can see for yourself, these do not look like Bill Murray anymore. really at all. This is why I don't end up using the no parameter very much, is because it might succeed at the thing you asked it to do, but it kind of messes up everything else in the process. So, you know, again, Midjourney, their algorithms, things are always changing and evolving. I'm sure in time this will get much better, but I've been disappointed by this a long time. So I don't end up using the no parameter a whole lot. Occasionally I'll use it for small little things, like I don't want the person to have a nose ring or earrings or whatever, and I'll say that and it'll usually work, but it'll change the image in subtle ways, but usually it won't bother me that much. But for something as major as like no color in a black and white photo, obviously it completely changed the look of Bill Murray. It doesn't even look like him anymore. So as a workaround to that, I'd recommend trying something instead like this. So I pasted in our prompt again. But after Richard Avedon here, before we start getting to our parameters at the end, forget about the no parameter at the end. But after the name of the photographer, let's do a space and let's type in monochromatic. Okay, so that's one little experiment we can try. And then I'm also going to do one other thing, which is in another prompt, type in our original, except instead of black and white photo, I'm going to say a silver gelatin print, because, you know, back when I did a photography class in college with actual real cameras and film, and all, it's like they were called silver gelatin prints, right? So it's more like a true black and white photograph. In fact, I could even throw the word photo in here just to be extra safe. So a realistic black and white silver gelatin print photo of Bill Murray by Richard Avedon. So let's plug that in and see what happens. So while that's cooking, let's go back to just by me adding monochromatic in here, right? This is what we got. And voila, we got black and white Bill Murray, black and white Bill Murray, pretty much black and white Bill Murray, and a color picture of Bill Murray. But notice we got more results of what we wanted, a black and white photo, but they all look like Bill Murray, you see? So that's why that's an example of a workaround that I'd recommend instead of using the no parameter. So I wanted you to be aware of the no parameter, that it's there, you can use it, but I also wanted to showcase sort of the downside of it in a way that you can work around, you know, fixing whatever image you want. You just have to get a little creative and descriptive to give Midjourney exactly what you want. For a black and white photo, you can say black and white photo, but if it's not giving it to you fully, instead of adding in a negative prompt, no color, instead of that, just add in more words that'll really zero in on, hey, Midjourney, it's almost like you're grabbing it by the neck and wringing its neck. Like, hey, I want a black and white, black and white. By adding in the word monochromatic, and then let's take a look at the new version I just did of a silver gelatin print. Again, we've got 3 photos, they look very classic, and 1 color photo. But it's like, you know, I don't mind that, like 3 out of 4. And honestly, of all of these, like I actually like this color photo the best, even though I wanted a black and white photo. So I would save this image. In fact, I'll just click U1 just to save that one right there. But yeah, there you go. Actually, this image is pretty great. This cowboy hat with the funky shirt. I like that one. So I'll upscale that one. So we're moving along here, right? You know, pardon me if I'm going in too depth here, but like, you know, I'm sure if this was for advanced users, you'd be getting bored. But I really, since if you're just a beginner, I really want you to have like a keen understanding of exactly how these things work, you know, like nothing left up in the air in terms of like misunderstanding anything. So we've learned style raw. We've learned aspect ratio. We've learned negative prompts, putting a no at the end of it, right? So this time I want to actually change our prompt a little bit. So I'm not changing anything with the parameters per se, but just to give you an idea of how you can get Midjourney to reinterpret things. And literally you can just let your mind run and it will keep up, right? So let's do similar to how we did before, but let's do realistic photo of Bill Murray at age 30. And let's keep it style raw. I don't even need the aspect ratio to be vertical. We'll just keep it square, right? So All right, so now we've got our realistic photo of Bill Murray at age 30. So there you have it. That's pretty good. He looks a little bit old for 30 there. It's almost kind of like there's aspects of him that look younger, but some of him still looks like the old man he is. This one's pretty good, actually, this lower left. I feel like that's kind of around Caddyshack time. Obviously, this number 2 and number 4 over here, they look dated correctly, like back in the 70s or whatever, but he starts to lose his face a little bit. Doesn't look exactly like him. But again, if you like this photo, you could save it. And then in a future tutorial that I'll make, I'll show you how to take a realistic likeness of somebody and sort of superimpose it into the face of your image so that it would look like Bill Murray way much more so. But that, again, that's a more advanced tutorial. So yeah, not bad, not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and save this one. And I'll save this like Caddyshack-ish one. So let's push it a little bit more. Let's go back from his age 30. And let's just go a little further back in time. Let's do awkward high school yearbook photo of Bill Murray. And he was in high school in the late 60s. So let's say 1969. We're gonna stick with style raw and we'll keep it at the default square ratio because yearbook photos are, I think, typically square. I guess they kind of vary, but whatever. We'll leave it at square. Let's see what we get. Okay, click in, see what we got. Not bad, you know, not amazing. Actually, this one does look like Bill Murray. It looks a little bit old to be in high school. In fact, all of these kind of do, but it's not terrible. And I bet you if you kept reloading and tried a few more, like you could probably start to get pretty close, you know. But you can kind of tell they do feel like yearbook photos though, from like 1970 or something. So the reason why I'm showcasing this is not for me to obsess about Bill Murray, but I just want to show you the power and ability that Midjourney has to, I mean, I don't know if your mind's not blown, but maybe we're all desensitized to this, but sometimes I just take a step back and I'm like, wow. Just the fact you can just type a few words in and get a 1970s style yearbook photo of a celebrity, any person, whatever. And just like that, in a couple of seconds, you have something that resembles Bill Murray, you know, from a high school yearbook. To me, I don't know, kind of mind blowing. But again, this is all just the fundamentals and the basics. So again, this is just scratching the surface, just trying to whet your appetite here to get started and run with it on your own and just go nuts with Midjourney, because I think this is all amazing. And hopefully you will too, just, you know, if you give it a whirl. Okay, so I want to do 2 more stylistic explorations here with Bill Murray before we move on. So this time let's do a World War I found photograph of Bill Murray. And because I want this to kind of have sort of an archival look, like this old found photograph, like I don't necessarily want to use style raw because I don't want it to look sort of like a clean modern photograph. I'd actually like it to have some texture and feel old and, you know, stylized in that sense, artistic. So that's why I left off the style raw here and I left it square, of course. So let's see what we get. All right, not bad. Not bad. I mean, this bottom right one looks maybe more like that could be his grandfather or something, or maybe that one. But this one actually kind of looks like him, and that one too, you know? But I love the texture on the edges of the photograph. You see what I mean? This is why I didn't want to have it just be sort of this raw modern photograph. I wanted to let Midjourney get artistic with it, because it's so good with all these textures and blurs and lighting. And look at this, you can see like little grains in there, like the little dirt in the photo. I'm like, this is so good. I don't know, I think this number 1 and number 2 are the best, but you know, I just wanted to showcase this as an example of like, look how far we've come in just a few examples, right? Of just starting out with Bill Murray, doing a realistic photo, you know, a photo of him at age 30, a yearbook photo as a high school kid, and now we've got him as a World War I soldier, you know, in this old vintage archival photo. Just like that. So again, this is, to me, this is amazing. I mean, these are literally just, this is a short phrase, like didn't even take that much research or, you know, complexity. And I just wanted to showcase this, like, look what can be done just with so little, you know. Imagine when you feed it very complex prompts, you give it a lot of guidance, like, you know, it's just, the possibilities are infinite, you know, and it's just mind blowing to me. Yeah. So let's move beyond Bill Murray. Oh, actually, I know, I'm sorry. I'm a big Bill Murray fan, but I'm going to wrap up this segment of the video with one last example, just to bring it back a little bit more modern times, but I want to show you this. So let's do cinematic film still of Bill Murray in a Wes Anderson movie. Now I'm going to bring back Style Raw because I want it to look very realistic. And I'm going to do this time AR, right? --AR. But instead of 3x5, I'm going to make it more cinematic. So I want the width to be 16 and the height to be 9, the ratio. So the ratio is 16:9. So let's plug that in and see what we get. Okay, so now we've got our Wes Anderson cinematic film stills. I mean, look at that. Look at this. Like, just stop and think about it for a second. With just a quick little short little prompt. I mean, look at this. This just looks like this is a scene from a movie starring Bill Murray. Any of these. Like, okay, this bottom left one maybe starts to look like some uncle of his. It doesn't look exactly like him. But 1, 2, and 4 over here, like, that's Bill Murray. And you notice the colors, the cinematography, like the scene, like this is a Wes Anderson film, you know? So I'm like, look how quickly we can go from an old archival World War I photograph of Bill Murray to this. Like, all of a sudden he's in a Wes Anderson film. Again, I'm just trying to show you with one person, one celebrity, one example, like just the beginnings of a start of a range of things you can create, right? So I'm going to go ahead and upscale 1, 2, and 4. Okay, so there's 2 more basic parameters that I want to cover here right now, just to get you guys started. And, you know, maybe there's somebody out there who doesn't really like Bill Murray, or you're sick of him now. Okay, so as much as I love Bill Murray, let's move on to a different example where I can showcase a few more parameters that you can use to control your image output. So instead of Bill Murray this time, let's go with a scene from the Loki TV show. Aspect ratio is 16:9, of course, because this is cinematic. We'll keep style raw, and let's see what we get. Okay, so we've got our stills from the Loki TV show, and I mean, look at this. Immediately, this is Loki, just like that. Like these images never existed before in the history of the universe, and in 5 seconds they exist now. So, you know, and these are not actual scenes from the show. These are just completely, Midjourney just imagined this out of thin air, right? The likeness, perfect. It's like clearly it has a lot of data to pull from to understand Loki. There you go. You know, like that's pretty amazing. But it's, if you kind of notice, like all 4 of these images, as great as they are, they're all fairly similar. It's like a head-on shot, direct shot of him, the colors, the environment, everything is relatively the same, which is fine because we want it to look like Loki. Granted, I don't think the algorithm, the Midjourney AI has enough recent data to understand that the Loki TV show is actually sort of more 1970s retro vintage vibes. So I'm not picking up on that from just telling it to get a still from the show, you know, but I bet you if I typed in 1970s vintage vibes, like it would change the style a little bit. But we're not going to get too complex with the prompts today. Like this is just an intro video, so we can get into sort of the fine art and science of crafting prompts in a future video. But the reason why we're going with this example here is I want to copy this whole thing and let's do imagine again, paste that in, except now we're going to add a new prompt and it's going to be --C, and C stands for chaos. And what chaos does is it gives you more variety in your grid of images. If you're feeling like you've asked for something, it gave you 4 images, but they're all too very similar to the same kind of thing, and you want to be like, well, I want to see a completely different style or a completely different scenario. It still adheres to the prompt, but it just gives more variety overall. That's when you want to use chaos. And a short form of that is just --C. And the chaos values range from 0 to 100. So a lot of times if I'm getting images that are just generally the same too much, I'll add like C5 or C10, right? Just to give a little bit more variety. But for the sake of demonstrating this, just so you have a radical idea, I'm not even going to go all the way up to 100, but let's just say 90, right? So let's give it a chaos value of 90 and see how Midjourney interprets it. Okay, so right away, just from the results here, you can see that this compared to this is like, this is, and I pumped that chaos value all the way up to 90, but you clearly can see we have really pushed the limits of sort of, what is even our original prompt anymore. Like here's a super close-up shot. Here he is in what looks like some kind of ancient Rome kind of place time. This doesn't even look like him, but I don't know, maybe it's somehow in the overall Marvel universe of an episode of a Loki show, but it's not Loki himself. This in the upper left here, number 1, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it kind of has the green, yellow colors, it has the funky chairs, sci-fi look, but this guy, I'm like, I don't know who he is, the blonde, But you see the overall point here. The reason why I demonstrated this is if you want more variety, pump up that chaos value and it's going to give you images that are like way out there a little bit, especially if you pump it up to 90. Let me go and show you how I would typically if I wanted more variation. So like I said, I would probably do something more subtle, like let's say 10, or just for the sake of just a little bit of, because I don't want it to look too much like our original set. Let's set it to 15. Okay, so now we've got our Loki now with a more reasonable chaos amount of 15, right? I usually don't go beyond 15 or 20. But yeah, look what we got. So it's definitely more Tom Hiddleston, but you can kind of see they're all still very head-on shots. The variation is a little bit more like, okay, we got some fire in this one, and this feels a little sort of Game of Thrones-y or something. This one feels a little futuristic sci-fi. He's got this leather jacket on. It's a spectrum, and it's meant for you to play around with. It's really, again, the theme of the day. It's really just about what do you want, If you want a very specific Loki adhering to this, like you go with a low or no chaos value. If you want to be surprised and you're like, I don't know, just give me something crazy out there, then you up that chaos value. And you can just anywhere between 0 and 100, just tweak values until you kind of get lucky and the slot machine gives you what you want. Okay, moving on from the chaos parameter, let's talk about Stylize. So we've already talked about just sort of regular default Midjourney style versus style raw, right? We've covered that. But let's get into Stylize. Let's change this up and do a more simple example. So let's do a drawing of a cat. And this time we're going to introduce the Stylize, which you can abbreviate as just S. The Stylize values range from 0 to 1000. If we type in Stylize 0, you're basically telling Midjourney, don't add any of your magic, your special sauce, your sugar and spice. Like, don't add any of that to this image. Just give me the plain drawing of a cat, boring as can be. Don't add any of your special style to it. That's what style 0 is. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a particularly hideous image, but my hunch is you don't really probably want to use Stylize 0 very often, because I just feel like in general, you're not going to get the most aesthetically appealing results. So let's take a look. So this is at Stylize 0. Not bad. It's not mind-blowing either, but it's fine. It's great. It's fine. But I never use this. But just to contrast it a little bit, let's do the same prompt, a drawing of a cat. This time let's do the maximized style value, which is 1000. Again, just for comparison's sake. Wow. So immediately you can tell night and day difference between Stylize 0, Stylize 1000. If I bring this up, look at that. So you get all of this intricate texture. You got this ink, you got these little bubbles here. The cats seem to have way more personality. You know, like, I mean, look at this. This is super intricate, and it's like, wow, we didn't even tell it to do anything. It looks like it has like this stained glass, little details in here, little circles. It's like, that is way beyond what I would expect by just telling it to give me a drawing of a cat. Like, they just kind of went above and beyond, and like, wow, it's a pretty crazy image. So I feel like that's a pretty quick and great, clear explanation of what the Stylize parameter does. And that gives you the two opposite ends of the spectrum. So obviously it's there. Now you know what it is, how to use it, play around with it. If you feel like your image is not aesthetically pleasing enough, maybe bump up your Stylize value. A lot of times I'll use something like 600 or 750, something like that. I very rarely go all the way to 1000. And kind of the reason for that is, again, Midjourney is constantly learning, and there's, you know, millions of people using this and millions of images being generated every day. And what people generally like, what they gravitate toward, it's kind of like the algorithm, the AI learns from that. So the problem of upping your Stylize value so much is you might tend to get somewhat of an aesthetic that is very specific to Midjourney, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like this feeling, this idea of like, oh, everybody's doing cool stuff on Midjourney, but it all kind of looks the same, right? So if you feel like you're making stuff and it's kind of just looking like everybody else's, I would recommend lowering your Stylize value, or just not using the Stylize parameter at all, and just getting really more specific with your prompts and referencing different artists who have nothing to do with Midjourney. Again, this is gonna start getting into very advanced concepts very quickly, how I like to mix different artist styles. Again, this is an advanced tutorial for a different day. But yeah, so now you have a sense of chaos, what that does. You have a sense of the style parameter, what that does. One more parameter I want to introduce here, just really quick, because I don't really use this very often, but I just want to throw it out there so you know that it exists. So for consistency's sake, let's go ahead and stick with our drawing of a cat. I'm going to get rid of this Stylize 1000. And this next parameter I'm going to mention to you, again, it's a fairly new introduction. I think it popped up earlier this year in 2023. It's a weird parameter, and it's literally weird. So it's literally -- weird. And like I said, the Stylize range is between 0 and 1000. For whatever reason, they made weird between 0 and 3000. Don't ask me why. So the default for every image you create when you don't include a weird prompt at all is just weird 0, right? Let's just see what happens when we max it out at 3000, right? Again, I have no idea what's going to happen, but this is kind of just like a fun game as I see it. You know, if you're just playing around, you want to see like, oh, you know, what's it going to give me, right? And granted, a drawing of a cat is a pretty boring prompt, but let's say you gave it a more interesting prompt or a really detailed prompt, and then you crank up the weird value a little bit. Maybe that's how you land at images that shock and awe people, right? Because they're like, wow, how'd you get that? And I'm like, well, I kind of left it up to Midjourney. I guided it a certain amount, and then I left it up to weird and interesting. So this is weird at maximum 3000. And honestly, it doesn't really feel that weird to me. You know, like, okay, maybe this bottom U3 one is a little bit weird. Actually, I really like this side view, image number 1. It feels kind of watercolor-ish. I love the contrast. So I really love this image. It doesn't feel especially weird to me, but I love it, you know? But maybe I wouldn't have landed exactly on this image if I didn't type in weird, you know? So that's the whole thing. It's all a game of chance. But the more you play with it, the more you can just come up with images that you just love. That otherwise, like, how would you ever come across this image? Like, I don't know. I'm not even a cat person, and I love this image. It's beautiful. Maybe to further illustrate the weird parameter, let's go back to Loki here. So maybe it'll play out a little bit more sort of what weird should be in a more noticeable way. So I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to go ahead and leave the chaos at 15. So on top of the weirdness, we can get a little bit more of a variety in the grid. So I'm going to add in weird. Let's go full 3000. Okay, so we have our weird results from the Loki show. Yeah, you know, see, like, this is why I don't really use weird that much. Like, I don't really personally love any of these images. You know, it's like weird. If I'm being honest, weird tends to like uglify the images a little bit. Like maybe by upping the Stylize value, you're allowing Midjourney to super beautify your image. But by using the weird command, I almost feel like it allows, it's like you grant permission to Midjourney to uglify your images. And me personally, I'm kind of an aesthetics snob, so I love beauty. I love beautiful images, colors, composition. Ugly images that like are just kind of blurry and not well shot and not aligned right and arbitrary, and I'm like, it doesn't really do anything for me. So, but anyway, I just kind of wanted to showcase and show you just like, this is another parameter. I'm sure for some specific purposes, some of you all might like the aesthetic of weird. So I just wanted to let you know that that's there. You can play around with it. I certainly won't be playing around with it that much, but feel free to play around with weird if you want. There are a few other parameters, and there's definitely some more advanced stuff. I will save all of that for another day in a more advanced video. But again, I really just wanted to get you started today. Before I go, I want to share, these aren't parameters necessarily, but these are a couple of very handy tools that you're going to want to be aware of. If you noticed here in all of my grids that show up, every time I created a grid, it says fast and stealth here. So like I mentioned before when I was describing the plans, stealth is only available if you have a pro plan, which if you're watching this video, you're probably just getting started out. You're not going to go for a pro plan. So that won't really even be an option for you. But fast and relaxed, if you're on the standard plan, you'll have 15 fast hours. So you are going to need to be a little bit aware of how many of your fast hours you're using or not. The quickest, easiest way, if you want to start saving your fast hours, but you still want to make more images, very quickly, simply, instead of doing /imagine, all you're going to do is type /relax. Simple as that. And it switches to relax mode. As it says here, you're no longer consuming your fast hours, but you know, some of your generations might take a little bit longer. Also, you can't queue up as many generations at the same time. When you're doing fast hours, you can queue up more at the same time. With relaxed, I think you're limited to just 3. Even if you're on the pro plan, I think you're still limited to 3 relaxed generations at a time. But if you want to go back to fast mode, just like you did relax, you can do /fast. And hit enter, and then now we're in fast mode. So, and this is an important one. At any point in time, you can go to /settings. Hit return a couple times. So here is where you have all of your current settings, right? So the current version of Midjourney that is out there on the market right now is 5.2. And this is a little bit more for my sort of advanced techniques, but you should be aware, even as a beginner, Midjourney has been evolving over the last year or two, so since early 2022. So obviously they started out with V1, the model, and every few months they upgrade the whole model, and the quality just really upgrades like every time they release a new model, especially from like a V3 to a V4, a V4 to a V5. Sometimes they do these more minor updates like 0.1 to 0.2. You should be aware that this is a thing. If you're watching this video in December or early January, who knows, maybe by then they've released version 6.0. So, but you can always go to settings. You can always get here to quickly switch back to an older model. And you might think, oh, well, the newest model's got to be the best, right? Why would I go back to an older model? But you would be surprised. And I'm going to probably do a separate video on it later on where I showcase how version 4 is how I started with Midjourney. And I fell in love with Midjourney on version 4. And then version 5 came along, and of course it's amazing, but it's also way more photorealistic. And there's certain things and references to different artists and styles that I actually preferred in version 4. So sometimes I do go back to version 4 to create certain things. So just something for you to be aware of. I'll probably make a very specific tutorial video about that at another time. Raw mode, I think we'll just switch everything to sort of style raw so you don't have to keep typing it in manually. Public mode, you're kind of stuck on public mode unless you go to stealth mode. Like I could switch back to public mode, but I don't want to. I'm going to stay in stealth mode forever. But that won't really be an option for you if you have one of the lower tier plans. You're just pretty much by default going to be on public mode. So the key thing I wanted to make note of for you here is this little thing here called remix mode. So this is important because if you noticed, every time I wanted a new batch of these 4 images, I would just hit that refresh button and it would immediately just start giving me a new batch of 4. But what if instead of a drawing of a cat, I wanted to switch it to a drawing of a dog? How would I do that? Because when I press this, it just automatically keeps auto creating a new batch. So they have this thing called the remix mode or remix feature, and it's off right now. But if you click this button, now remix mode is on. So now, I don't really want to go back to that one because I don't love that one. But let's say, because I liked this one, right? The drawing of a cat, the high stylized version. So now, if I click this button, instead of it just automatically giving me a new grid of 4, notice it brought up this prompt. And I can change the prompt. Anything about it. I can change the parameters, the prompt, whatever. So I'm going to change this, a drawing of a cat, to a drawing of a dog. And that's it. I'll keep the high stylized value. I'll hit submit. So notice when you're on remix mode and you hit that refresh button, notice that it's green now. So that's how you kind of know, like, oh, okay, I'm using remix mode. So again, just a little quick tip. That's how you know you're in remix mode or not. But notice, just from doing that remix on the drawing of a cat, I changed the word cat to dog, and we got all these lovable dogs. Dogs are so much better than cats, right? That's the remix mode. So the thing is, I rarely ever go back to this settings panel by doing /settings. Usually what I do is I switch all the time back and forth between fast and relax mode. And I showed you how to do that. You just type in fast, you hit enter to go to fast mode. You type in relax to go to relax mode. And just like that, you can toggle on the remix mode. So right now we have remix mode on, right? I just turned it on up here by clicking that button. So if I want to go back, let's say I don't want to have that prompt. Actually, let me go back here. So let's say I love this. I love the dogs. I want to just keep cranking and create a whole bunch of versions of dogs. I love this stylized value. So I hit the reload button and it keeps bringing up this prompt. And I'm like, well, I don't want to have to keep hitting submit every time because I know I want to do a bunch of these, right? So I'll hit cancel. And all you got to do is do /remix and hit return. That's it. And it notifies you. Remix mode is turned off. So you don't have to go to that settings and press that remix button. You can literally just do /remix. So now when I press this button, see, it just started a new generation just like that. And also notice what I was saying earlier, the color is blue now, not green. So again, these are just tools. You know, now you can understand it, like to increase your productivity, speed up your workflow. If you want to vary every image you're generating, then you probably want to be on remix mode so you can constantly be changing your prompts. But if you have a prompt you really like and you just want to keep going at it and cranking out a bunch, you probably want to turn remix mode off and just have it auto create new grids every time you hit reload. Okay, so as you may or may not have noticed, this video is getting kind of long. And there's still even more to cover, but let's try and wrap this up, shall we? Today, I've introduced you to the fundamentals of what Midjourney is, how to set up your account and subscription and link with Discord. And I've walked you through the basic tools, parameters, and settings you need to know in order to get started with creating AI imagery. But I've saved a real gem here toward the end, something really fun to play around with, especially if you're into anime.
だから、私と
Midjourney offers what's called Niji mode. In a nutshell, to stylize whatever imagery you're making as if it's from some scene in an anime film, all you have to do is add this simple parameter of --Niji space 5. And that's a 5 for now because that's the latest version. Presumably sometime in the next few months, whenever you're seeing this video, it might be Niji 6 by that point. But for the time being, it's --Niji space 5. So you add that to your prompt and voila, that's it. Instant anime styling. So here's just a few examples of images I've created using Niji mode. Granted, I've used some rather complex prompts to create these images, so don't be disappointed if your initial results are not looking as elaborate or refined as these. If you want to improve with your prompts and overall techniques, be sure to subscribe to this channel as I'll be rolling out more advanced videos on all that you can do with Midjourney, as well as how to further enhance and even animate your images using other apps and services. But for now, one further thing you can experiment with in Niji mode. Try using one of these 3 specific style parameters after you add your --Niji 5. Use style expressive, that's --style space expressive, to create exquisite illustrations with more stylistic focus on your primary subject matter. I've found this stylization to be great if you want to achieve a more crisp, flat art aesthetic. On the other hand, try --style space scenic if you want a bit more emphasis on the overall environment. And I feel like with this stylization, you can get some really nice flares and glows and lighting. Really, really cool stuff. And lastly, try --style space cute if you want anime style imagery that is, well, just super cute. This is great for really girly stuff, outfits, accessories, that sort of thing. Anyway, just like I've been saying all along today, once you have a decent grasp of what you're doing, it's really just all about experimentation after that. If you've watched this far, kudos to you. I feel confident that you've got the basics down to at least get started, and I'm genuinely interested to see what you create with Midjourney. You can follow me on both Instagram and Twitter at @Kaslo for a healthy dose of ideas and inspiration. And feel free to tag me when you post your creations. I'd love to see what you're making. All right, so there's one last big thing we need to address before concluding this video, and that is how to save all your images. As I mentioned earlier, you can download each individual image as you go within Discord, but I don't recommend you do that as it will quickly become tedious to manually download image after image. So what you're gonna wanna do is go back to midjourney.com while you're logged in to your account linked with Discord, of course. The current website as of December 6th defaults to the Explore tab, which, side note, I highly encourage you to browse and enjoy AI artworks by others in the Midjourney community. You can click the heart buttons to save images for future reference. If you click on the Likes tab here, you'll see all those images that you've hearted. And not only just saving others' images for visual reference, you can actually copy someone else's prompt and simply paste that same prompt into the command field in Discord. Yeah, it's kind of stealing, but the thing about Midjourney is that it seems like it was always intended to be a very open and shared public experience. You should know that every image you make, yes, even though I showed you how to create your images in your own private Discord server, those images are still technically public and could very well show up on this Explore page, where others can not only see your images, but they can also take and use the specific prompts that you wrote to create your images. If this bothers you, as eventually it did for me, well, like I mentioned earlier in the video, what you would need to do is sign up with the Pro plan and turn on stealth mode. That's the only way to truly keep your images and prompts private. Okay, speaking of your images, now I'm going to show you how to download all of them. All you have to do is click over here on My Images. And this will bring up a gallery of every Midjourney image you've ever created and neatly sorted by date. So above each daily collection of images, you should see a download button. Notice I have 2 buttons here, but this is because all of my images are private since they were created in stealth mode. So this second button gives me the option to publish all, meaning my stealthily created images would no longer be private. But if you're on the basic or standard plan, all your images would already be published publicly by default. So I'm guessing this publish button may not even be visible for you. So yeah, like I said, you probably just see the little download button here. But before you click it, one more thing I want you to be aware of. If you recall, every time you were generating images in Discord, remember, it would first create a grid, and then you chose which images in the grid that you actually wanted to upscale. Chances are you're not interested in saving all your grids, but instead you probably just want to download the specific images that you chose to upscale. So before you click the download button, go over here and click this button to reveal the display settings, which will also apply to your download settings. Notice that for me, grids is grayed out. This is because I don't want to download my grids, I only want my upscales. If you want to do the same, just make sure your grids button is not lit up. So once that's taken care of, now just move back over to the little download buttons above each day and click it. This will download a zip file with all your images in it. Note that if you've created several images within a day, like over 100, it will actually create and download multiple zip files. Just unzip them and voila, you've got all your Midjourney images downloaded to your hard drive. I actually have some great tips and tricks for how to keep all your Midjourney images neatly organized, but this video is already super long, so I will save that for a dedicated tutorial in the near future. So my friends, that's it. You've now learned what Midjourney is and the fundamentals of how to create amazing imagery with it. If you have any questions at all about anything covered in this video, feel free to post your question in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to help you out. And of course, if you've gotten any value from this video, please do click the like button so that we can get the YouTube algorithm on our side to push this video out to more wonderful people like yourself. And hey, even after learning all about Midjourney today, if you've realized it's not for you, consider sharing this video with someone who you think might actually love to use Midjourney. As I mentioned earlier, connect with me on social media at Kaslo, as I'd love to see how you apply what you've learned today. And of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel to keep learning more tips and tricks from Midjourney, but also so many other things in the AI realm and beyond. I'll be here teaching how you can level up your creative skills with Adobe apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, and After Effects, as well as how you can boost your productivity in every aspect of your life as we enter into 2024. So many good things on the horizon. Let's get after it together.
Subscribe for more.